The day after we buried my father, my stepmother handed me a suitcase and told me to get out of the house I grew up in. No tears. No hesitation. Just a cold smile and 6 words that changed my life. This isn't your home anymore. And the worst part? She thought she'd won. But what she didn't know was that my father left me something no one could take away. Secret. A plan. And a piece of paper that would bring everything crashing down around her. I still remember the last dinner I had with my dad. Honey roasted chicken, soft jazz playing in the background, and his warm laugh echoing through the kitchen like nothing could ever go wrong. He looked a little tired that night. Paler than usual. His hands trembled slightly as he passed me the bowl of mashed potatoes. But he smiled. He always smiled when I was home. "I'm proud of you, baby girl," he said. "You've become exactly the kind of woman I hoped you'd be." I smiled back, holding that moment like a snapshot in my heart. Because 3 days later he was gone. No warnings. No hospital beds. Just a heart attack in the middle of the night. And by the time I got the call, it was already too late. My name is Grace West. I'm 23, stubborn, self-made, and until that week, completely certain of one thing, that my dad would never leave me unprotected. Turns out, I was right. But not before I had to lose everything first. Dad married Veronica when I was 15. She came into our lives with sharp heels, red lips, and a scent that reminded me of hotel lobbies and cold marble. She was beautiful, no doubt, and smart in that calculating, always smiling kind of way. To the outside world, she was elegance and grace. To me, she was distance in human form. She never yelled. Never cursed. Never hit me. She just excluded me. Fully. Strategically. She didn't show up to my school events. She never called me sweetheart or honey like Dad did. She didn't forget my birthdays, she just made them feel like chores. I didn't hate her. But I didn't trust her either. The day after the funeral, I was still in Dad's flannel shirt, curled up on the couch, clutching the photo album he kept under his nightstand. Veronica walked into the living room with 2 cups of coffee. She set one down in front of me without a word, then sat across from me with her usual tight-lipped smile. And then, as casually as you talk about the weather, she said, "You should start packing. You've got until Friday." I blinked. Thought maybe I'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" "This isn't your home anymore, Grace. Everything here now belongs to me. Your father didn't leave a will." The air was sucked right out of the room. "That's not possible," I whispered. "He told me, he showed me." "Then where is it?" she said coldly. "Because legally everything comes to me." I stared at her. At the woman who once smiled at my graduation party, who kissed my father's cheek and said she'd take care of me. No. Now she wanted me gone. I didn't argue. Didn't scream. Didn't cry. I just stood up, walked to the guest room and began packing. Not because she was right, but because I had a feeling. Something wasn't finished yet. I packed a single suitcase, just the essentials. But I made sure to take the things that mattered. My dad's old watch. The framed photo of the 2 of us fishing when I was 10. A wrinkled note he once left in my lunchbox that read, "Don't forget how smart and brave you are." And a recipe card, his honey chicken written in his messy handwriting. I slipped it into my coat pocket without thinking. Grief is strange. 1 minute you're numb. Just existing. The next you're standing in a grocery aisle holding a box of cereal, crying your eyes out because your dad used to eat that brand every morning. That's how the days went after I left the house. I stayed on a friend's couch. Ate instant noodles. Showed up to work pretending I was okay while my insides felt like they'd been hollowed out. But there was one thing that kept circling in my mind like a bird refusing to land. Dad had a will. I know he did. We talked about it during my sophomore year of college after one of his close friends died suddenly. I remember sitting on the porch steps with him while he sipped bourbon and stared at the stars. "I've got things taken care of," he'd said. "I'm not leaving anything to chance, Grace. Especially not where you're concerned." Back then I hadn't thought much of it. But now, that conversation clung to me like armor. I started digging. I contacted the family attorney, Mr. Halbert, an older gentleman who had known my dad for years. But when I called, the receptionist told me he was retired. Suddenly. As of 2 weeks ago. That was strange. I searched for files in my dad's name, looked up probate cases, even called the county clerk's office. But there was no will filed. No public record. Nothing. It was like it had disappeared. Or been hidden. Then on my third night crashing at my friend Eliza's, I pulled out that folded chicken recipe from my coat pocket. It had dried gravy stains on it. A crease down the middle. My dad's loopy handwriting scribbled across the top. Honey roasted chicken, Grace's favorite. I smiled. Then flipped it over just by chance. And there was a sentence. Faint, almost invisible unless the light hit it just right. Written in pencil, barely visible. Library. File box. Look for the red tab. My heart stopped. He'd left me a clue. The next morning I skipped work. I drove straight to Dad's office at the university. I hadn't been there since I was a teenager, tagging along after school while he finished lectures. It smelled the same, dusty books, ink and that weird lemon cleaner they used on the floors. The secretary barely looked up when I walked in. Drive West's office is being cleared out. I'm his daughter, I interrupted, flashing my ID. I just need a few minutes. She shrugged and pointed me down the hall. The door creaked open like something out of a movie. Everything was still there. The framed diplomas, the bookshelf bursting with worn-out textbooks, the photos of me on his desk. And beside the filing cabinet, a red-topped box. My breath caught. That recipe would change everything. But I didn't know it then. All I knew as I walked out of the only home I'd ever known was that she had taken everything from me. Everything except the truth. I dropped to my knees and pulled it open. Folders. Contracts. Tax forms. And then, a yellow envelope labeled in his handwriting. To be opened only by Grace West. I swear I stopped breathing. I tore it open and pulled out two things. A handwritten letter. And a copy of his real will. The letter was dated 6 months before he died. If you're reading this, Grace, it means I didn't make it to tell you in person. I knew Veronica wouldn't make this easy. That's why I left this here where only you would think to look. You're my only child. My heart. My legacy. And everything I've built is meant for you. Not her. The will you're holding is the only valid one. I fired Halbert and updated it with a new lawyer. A man I trust. Everything is in here. The house. The savings. The land. Everything. You know what to do. Love you forever, kiddo. Tears blurred my eyes. He'd protected me. Even in death, he'd made sure I wouldn't be left in the cold. But there was one thing I still didn't understand. Why wasn't this will in the official system? And who was this new lawyer? I searched the back of the envelope and found it. A business card taped inside. Marcus Dale, attorney at law. I called him that same day. He remembered me right away. Grace? Oh, thank God. I've been trying to reach you for weeks. Why didn't you file the will? I asked, heart racing. I did, he said. I tried. But someone, your stepmother, I believe, called pretending to be you. She said you changed your mind and would be in touch when ready. I was stunned. That's illegal, I whispered. Yes. And that's why I've kept the original safe, waiting for your call. Suddenly, it all made sense. Veronica knew. She'd seen it coming. She tried to erase me before the truth could surface. But now I had everything I needed. Proof. A lawyer. A signed, dated, notarized will. And 5 years' worth of quiet anger sitting beneath my skin. She thought she'd buried the truth with my father. But what she didn't realize was that I'd just dug it back up. No. I was coming for everything. Some people crumble when they hit rock bottom. Me. I found a shovel and started digging for the truth. The night I found the real will, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling of Eliza's guest room, Dad's letter clutched to my chest, my mind racing. Veronica didn't just take my home. She tried to erase me. Tried to silence my father's final wishes. Tried to rewrite the story so she could come out on top. But the plot had changed. As I was done grieving. No. I was planning. Marcus Dale, Dad's new lawyer, met me at his office the next morning. He was everything Veronica wasn't. Kind, warm, methodical, and legitimately furious on my behalf. I knew something was off when she called pretending to be you, he said, sliding a folder across the table. But I couldn't file without you. The folder contained the original signed and notarized copy of my dad's final will. It named me as the sole beneficiary of the family house, 2 investment accounts, a life insurance policy, and a piece of land in the countryside I hadn't even known existed. Everything, down to the last detail. Can we file this now? I asked, fingers trembling slightly. Already in motion, Marcus said. And we'll request an emergency hearing. With this evidence and the fraud your stepmother committed, we have a solid case. A wave of relief rushed through me, followed by something deeper, colder. Resolve. I hadn't fought for much in life. I was the quiet one. The peacemaker. The girl who didn't want drama. But when someone tries to erase your bloodline, you learn how to fight fast. The next 2 weeks were a blur of legal paperwork, affidavits, and Zoom calls with probate court. Marcus filed everything. He submitted Dad's will, provided the time-stamped envelope, filed a fraud complaint against Veronica for impersonation. I provided personal proof too. Texts, voice notes from my dad referencing the new will, photos of the chicken recipe with his hidden message. Every shred of evidence painted one picture. My father wanted me to have everything, and she tried to steal it. In the meantime, Veronica kept living like she'd already won. I watched from afar as she hosted a fundraiser at the house, smiled for photos in the same dining room where she'd kicked me out, and told anyone who'd listen that she was coping with the loss of her husband with grace and strength. Public sympathy. Private theft. But soon, her mask would fall. Because a hearing date was set. And she had no idea what was coming. One night I sat alone on the back porch of Eliza's house, sipping hot tea and watching the sky fade from orange to violet. And I realized something. I wasn't just fighting for a house. Or for money. Or for a last name. I was fighting for every girl who's ever been pushed aside. Every daughter someone tried to cut out of her own story. Every quiet voice that was told she didn't belong. Dad didn't raise me to shrink. He raised me to stand up. Even if my knees shook. The week before the hearing I went to visit the house. Not to confront Veronica. Not yet. Just to look. The gate was locked. The lights were on. And in the window of Dad's old study I saw her. Sipping wine. Laughing on the phone. I smiled. Not because I was jealous. Because she was comfortable. Too comfortable. And that meant she didn't see the storm coming. I left a letter in the mailbox. No threats. No insults. Just one sentence. See you in court. And beneath it, a copy of the real will. Let her feel the floor shift under her feet. Let her taste the fear she once served me. Because the courtroom wasn't just where I'd get justice. It was where I'd reclaim everything she tried to steal. And for once I wouldn't have to scream or beg or plead. I just had to show the truth. And let the facts speak louder than her lies ever could. Courtrooms are cold. Not just in temperature, but in feeling. Like grief and justice can't quite exist in the same room. I sat at the long polished table, palms sweating, heart pounding so loud I thought it might echo off the marble floors. Across from me sat Veronica. Dressed in sleek black. Hair perfect. Pearl earrings, like she was attending some high society brunch instead of defending herself for fraudulent inheritance. She didn't look at me. Not once. But I could feel her unease like perfume in the air. Something about her posture. Tighter than usual. Rigid. Contained. He knew. The judge entered. A short, stern woman with sharp glasses and a voice like steel. This is a hearing to determine the rightful execution of Dr. Jonathan West's last will and testament, she began. All parties have submitted documentation. Let's proceed. Marcus stood first. His tone was calm. Steady, deadly. Your Honor, we submit into evidence the original notarized will, signed 6 months prior to Drive West's death. It names Grace West, his biological daughter, as sole beneficiary. He passed the folder forward. I watched the judge skim it, eyes scanning over the signature, the dates, the notary stamp. Then came the kicker. Additionally, Marcus said, we have evidence that Mrs. Veronica West intentionally misled a law office by impersonating Grace West, preventing the lawful filing of this document. He handed over the phone record, the email screenshot, even the envelope with my father's message written behind the chicken recipe. This was not negligence, Marcus said. This was theft. Veronica's lawyer, some smug man in an overpriced suit, tried to push back. He claimed the will was outdated. That Drive West had changed his mind. That Veronica had supported Jonathan in his final days while Grace had been absent. I clenched my fist. But I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Because Marcus pulled out a thumb drive. We'd like to play an audio recording, Your Honor. Drive West's final voicemail to Grace West. It played over the courtroom speakers. Hey sweetheart. Just finished updating everything with the new attorney. It's all in place. I meant it when I said, no one's gonna shut you out of what we built. Love you, kiddo. Silence. Then the judge looked up. Her gaze shifted to Veronica. Mrs. West. Do you deny impersonating Grace to block this filing? Veronica opened her mouth. But for once in her life, no words came out. She stammered. Then blinked. Then quietly said, I thought it was a mistake. He never told me. The judge raised a hand. Enough. The facts are clear. What happened next didn't feel real. The judge read the ruling. The house. The assets. The insurance. All awarded to me. Veronica sat frozen. As if the courtroom had dropped 10 degrees. The judge added, and I will be referring this matter to the district attorney to investigate possible fraud. You may be facing charges, Mrs. West. I didn't flinch. Didn't smile. Didn't cry. I just stood, gathered my things, and walked past her. And for the first time in years she looked small. Like someone who knew the empire she tried to steal was crumbling. I walked out of that courtroom and into sunlight. Real, warm, freedom-filled sunlight. I didn't win back a house. I won back my name. My truth. My father's love, written into every line of that will. A week later I returned to the house. The locks had been changed. Her things cleared out by the sheriff's office. The furniture covered in white sheets like ghosts waiting to be seen. I walked through each room slowly. The walls felt different. Like they belonged to me again. And in Dad's study I found it. A photo of the two of us. Me on his shoulders at the county fair, both of us laughing. Behind the frame, tucked into the back, another note. If you find this, it means you made it. I never doubted you would. Now go build something even bigger. Make me proud. I cried that night. Not out of sadness, but out of completion. Because justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's just about being seen. Revenge doesn't always come with screaming. Sometimes it walks in wearing heels and a calm smile, then takes everything back without raising its voice. 3 weeks after the court ruling, I stood on the steps of the house, my house, in a navy blue suit, hair slicked back, holding a set of gold keys. Reporters lined the walkway. A camera crew from the local business network was waiting. They weren't here for the scandal. They were here for the announcement. Because today I wasn't just reclaiming my name. I was launching something brand new. The house my stepmother tried to rip from me, I turned it into a non-profit organization. West Haven, a sanctuary for daughters left behind. A community center for young women who'd been abandoned, betrayed, cut off by their own families. For girls like me, who needed somewhere to land while they got back up. We were launching mentorship programs, career development training, emergency housing support, therapy. Everything I wished I had during those cold nights on Eliza's couch. The launch event was standing room only. Donors, journalists, influencers, survivors. I stood in front of them all holding that same chicken recipe card in my hand. I told them about my dad. How he left me love in the form of words. And how even death couldn't silence his care for me. I didn't name Veronica. Didn't trash her. But I didn't need to. The story spoke for itself. And people listened. The press release made it to the local news. And a few days later someone tagged me in a social media post. It was a blurry photo of Veronica, at a gas station on the edge of town. She looked thinner. Older. Alone. The comments were merciless. Is that the woman who tried to steal her stepdaughter's inheritance? Justice looks good on Grace West. I didn't reply. Didn't share it. Didn't gloat. Because I didn't need to watch her fall. I just needed to rise. One day she showed up at the center. Unannounced. No cameras. Just her. She stood outside the gates, clutching a leather purse like a lifeline. I watched her from the window. She didn't try to come in. She just stood there. Looked at the plaque bearing my name. Looked at the young women walking inside. And then she turned and walked away. And somehow, that was enough. That was the ending I didn't know I needed. That night, I hung something in the entryway of West Haven. Right beneath the mission statement. A shadow box. Inside it, the framed chicken recipe card. A photo of Dad and me. And a small brass plaque that read, "Built on love. Protected by truth. Owned by no one but Grace." People ask me now if I'm angry. If I want to sue Veronica. Or see her punished more. Or take her to court again. And I tell them, no. Because she already lost the one thing she couldn't buy back. Leggy. She may have worn pearls and smiled for the world. But in the end I got the last word. In print. In stone. And in every life I'll get to help from here on out. People think revenge is about destruction. But real revenge? It's about becoming everything they told you you'd never be, and doing it without their permission. It's been 2 years since I walked out of that courtroom with my father's name wrapped around my heart like armor. And in that time I've built something no one can take away from me. Myself. West Haven has grown. We have a second branch opening in Atlanta and a mentorship program that's helped more than 300 young women rebuild their lives. Some are escaping toxic homes. Some are healing from betrayal. Some just need someone to say, "You matter." And every time I walk those halls and hear laughter where silence once lived, I know I'm living proof. You can lose everything and still win in the end. I still wear Dad's watch. It's old and scratched, but the ticking reminds me that time is mine now. Not something to wait for, not something to fear. And every Sunday I cook his honey-roasted chicken. Sometimes just for me. Sometimes for a table full of girls who didn't get fathers like mine. And when I take that first bite, I swear I can still hear his voice. "I'm proud of you, baby girl." As for Veronica, she moved away. No one really talks about her now. Her name pops up occasionally in small circles, always attached to rumors. Failed ventures, social isolation, a new last name. But I don't follow her story. I'm too busy writing my own. One night I gave a talk at a women's conference in New York. Afterward, a girl no older than 20 raised her hand and asked, "How did you find the strength to fight back?" And I told her the truth. I didn't feel strong. Not at first. I felt broken. Forgotten. But somewhere in that darkness I remembered who raised me. I remembered my worth. And then I realized, when someone tries to erase you, it's because they fear how powerful you'll be if you stand tall. The crowd went silent. And that's when I knew. The story. It was never about revenge. It was about rebirth. I walk into my house now without flinching. No ghosts. No resentment. Just peace. My home smells like cinnamon, fresh coffee, and a little bit of lavender. I keep a photo of my dad in the hallway, the one where we're both laughing, hair wind-blown and messy. Right next to it, I've hung a canvas print of the letter he left me. At the bottom it reads, "Go build something bigger. Make me proud." And I did. I am. And I always will be. So if you're out there right now feeling like your story's over, someone betrayed you, if you were pushed aside, if they told you you didn't belong, let me say this. They don't get to write your ending. You do. And sometimes, your greatest comeback starts with a single page, tucked behind a chicken recipe. Have you ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you? How did you rise above it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I promise you someone out there needs your story. Subscribe for more real stories of betrayal, justice, and becoming unstoppable. New episodes every week. Let's reclaim our narratives, together.